You won't believe why so many Europeans are packing their bags and heading to South Africa. And no, it's not because they suddenly realize they love borrowers and rugby. Well, maybe a little. But the real reasons? Those are wild. I went online and found people sharing their stories about why they left Europe and decided that Mzansi is the place to be. And trust me, this is not what you think.
Here's the story of how I ended up moving from Sweden to South Africa to follow a dream I didn't even know I had, and end up doing what I do today. I grew up just outside Stockholm, Sweden, and until 2016, Africa hadn't really been on my radar. But then in 2016, I graduated our equivalent to high school, and I worked a summer job saving up a bit of money because I knew I didn't want to study right away, and I wanted to travel, and I wanted to see something different. And then on a whim, because of a series of random events, I ended up booking a 2-month volunteering trip at a horse safari in South Africa. And that was probably the best decision I have ever made. That trip literally changed my life, and even though I've always been passionate about nature, being a scout when I was younger, and always enjoyed photography, this just put those two together and really sparked a fire within me wanting to learn more about nature, and especially the amazing wildlife that I got to see on this trip. I came back to Sweden and I was absolutely miserable. All I could think about was going back to South Africa. So I saved up a lot of money, and eventually I was able to come back in 2018 to do my guiding course. This is called Fugasa. It was my level 1. And while doing this guiding course, we also traveled around South Africa for 2 months. We got to see some really amazing places and got to see more of this country that I didn't realize even existed. And while I was studying to become a guide, I met my now fiance, Craig, and through him I was able to get a work visa and eventually come and work with him in the bush. He was a guide, so I started working as a front of house, which is basically like guest relations at a lodge, and that made it possible for me to be in the bush. And on my free time, I started taking more and more photos and really enjoyed being out in nature and capturing what I saw. Through my photography, I was trying to convey the feeling of what it was like being here for all my friends and family back home. And I think that is still what I try to do through my photos. I try to tell the story of what it's like seeing these incredible animals in the wild. We worked together in the lodge industry for 4 years, and during that time, I started sharing my photography on social media. I also started following a lot of other photographers and getting inspired by other people. And slowly this idea grew of starting our own business. And eventually we took the very big leap of resigning from our jobs and starting working full-time with our business. And that is what we do to this day. We have a safari company together where we help people plan their safaris, both in South Africa, but also in other parts of Africa. We do that both for photographers, but also for people who are just looking for their dream safari. And that works hand in hand with my photography business, where I teach wildlife photography to some of our guests on our workshops, but also online through my online courses and ebooks. And other than that, we also do freelancing, working with different companies and different projects, and in general, just trying to figure out ways that we can do what we love every single day and live life to the fullest.
Alright, so I've been in South Africa for about a month now after deciding to permanently leave the UK. Just to give a bit of context and a background about myself, since people are confused about my last post. I am South African, I was actually born here, and both of my parents are South African as well. So now, some of you may be wondering, why did I decide to leave the UK? Isn't it a better place than South Africa? Well, it all depends on how you look at it. From a financial standpoint, yeah, the UK is way better than South Africa. But for me personally, there's certain things money can't buy. And even with the money you do make in the UK, most of it you don't keep it. But one of the biggest reasons for me was lost time with family members. See, I've spent over a decade without even being able to see my own dad. And no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't envision myself staying in the UK and building a life that side. Especially knowing that I have so many family members this side and I'm letting all this time pass by. So yeah, I'll be documenting my whole journey just to show people it's possible to achieve your dreams no matter where you are.
Because South Africa is a BRICS country, right? It is a part of BRICS, which is why I chose South Africa over all of the 54 countries in Africa. Beautiful countries, beautiful. But for me to relocate to, and knowing that I'll have to make new money and continue to grow and excel and expand, and I want to not be in the group of have-nots. I mean, if I'm just being honest with myself, then if we're talking about Africa, then definitely South Africa, 100%, because BRICS is backed by gold and they've already tested their system, which is outside of SWIFT, and it's functioning properly. It works. And it's real, whether the West likes it or not. So if I'm going to relocate somewhere, right, then don't I want to be in a country that is going to be on the up and up and in the have versus the have-nots? Absolutely. And I looked at other countries too, like Brazil, right, and Costa Rica. But I was like, look, as much as I love Spanish food, I really do. I grew up on it. I'm not Spanish. I'm not. I don't like mariachi music. I don't. I like Carlos Santana. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can vibe for a minute, but it's just like, nah. That I didn't, like, I would be annoyed after a while. Like, I just don't feel like I would fit in at all. So then looking at other countries in Africa, I was like researching, and the truth is that a lot of them didn't have bathtubs, and that's a big part of my life. I love the water, and a bathtub resets me. Like, I literally overdose in lavender, and that's how I feel like my whole day has restarted, is taking a lavender overdose bath, right? And then the next day I feel like, or not the next day, but when I emerge, it's just like, hello. I feel like I actually went to sleep, and it's a new day. So a lot of countries, I see bathtubs, and I'm like, bro, like, no, I can't. I'm not a shower person like that. Like, no. So South Africa is also the most developed country in Africa. That means when you turn on the water faucet, water comes out. When you turn on hot water, in some places, hot water comes out. You could pretty much rest assured that there's going to be electricity, there's going to be Wi-Fi, and I could do the nature, and like off-grid, even though I've never done it. I mean, I've been hiking. In my wildest dreams, I'm like, okay, yeah, off-grid, fully sustainable, borehole and all that jazz. Yeah, but you got to take baby steps to get there. You can't just like immediately go like a rough ride in it. Now, here's the deal. Since I've been here, have I learned so much. Lots of culture shocks. The first thing that blew my mind is when we arrived in Cape Town airport, and then we were heading to Milnerton, where our Airbnb was, and we passed a township. I've never seen that in my life, and I was like scared. That was the first, probably and only time I've ever been scared. I was like, people live there? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. This was nothing like the videos. Holy moly, right? And then as I continued to like really dig in and look and see and observe, I was like, wait a minute, I don't like that. I don't like, this ain't cool. So I've made a resolution in my heart that I'm gonna end the townships. Watch. I don't need no politician. Watch me. That shit is finna end. As long as I'm here. I mean that. I don't need nobody's permission. I talked to my father about it, and he gave me the green light and a whole strategy. Period. All it takes is someone who cares, and there's a lot of people out there that are making strides. Anyways, just saying that if you're deciding on like where you want to relocate to and you feel like Africa is calling you, consider the fact that South Africa is an integral part of BRICS. And that's real. That's all I gotta say. Peace.
If you are looking to travel, here's why South Africa, and specifically Cape Town, is one of the best places to go if you are from Europe or the West. Amazing weather, incredible beaches on both sides. If you want to get warm beaches, go onto the side where it's like Durban, and that is the East Coast. On the West Coast, you have Cape Town. Cape Town's an amazing city, and there is so much to do there. So many parties, so much lively action going on in Cape Town. It's a great city with great people. That is what makes a country, and that is what makes South Africa. Food is amazing, it's quite cheap, and the sunsets are like no other. Go on Chapman's Peak Drive for a crazy sunset. The views are obviously also incredible from Table Mountain. And if you're a nature person like me, then there is so much nature there to see, both in the ocean and on the land. There is safari parks, and then there are whales, dolphins, sharks, you name it, it's in the ocean. But I've gone back to Cape Town more than I have any other place on this planet. So there's reasons for that, and those are the reasons. Amazing destination.
That I love about living in South Africa as a British girl who has now lived over here for ages, there are just certain words that just they don't even translate into English effectively, but just themselves as words or phrases are just unmatched. The first one of these, which is my favorite, it's an Afrikaans word, loskop. There is nothing in English that is as useful, as convenient, as pleasant on the ear and on the tongue, and just apt for describing that kind of that scatterbrained state of just being like, ugh, you know. And it can be used as an insulting thing, but quite frankly, I am a loskop and I am thrilled to be so. Like, I'm not insulted if you call me a loskop. For English people who have not heard it before, yeah, it just means like your head is all over the place, you're scatterbrained, you're kind of like a bit ditzy. Well, that's how I take it anyway. And like, I'm not insulted if someone calls me a loskop, because quite frankly, they're like right on the money. Scatterbrained just didn't quite like just have it just didn't hit the nail on the head, but loskop was just perfect.
When I first told people that I was moving to Cape Town from London, everybody told me that I would struggle to make friends here. And this isn't English people telling me this. This was South African people that I knew in London. They were like, "Ooh, you might struggle to make friends there because Cape Townians can be quite difficult people." Maybe this is because I've come here with my boyfriend who's from Cape Town, so I'm kind of already like in the clique, maybe. Or maybe it's because I'm a little bit older and I don't really give a fuck. So I just stay in touch with the people I want to stay in touch with and don't stay in touch with the people I don't want to stay in touch with. Anyway, besides the point, I just want to let you know that in general, overall, hand on heart, whether it is a South African from Cape Town, a South African from Joburg, Durban, I've also met people from a wide variety of places here. I've met people from Zim, from Malawi. Everybody here is just on a different vibe. I've not had one negative experience with any one person that I've met here. And listen, before you say it, I know it's not perfect here, but it really is the tale of two halves. Everyone is so friendly and open and warm and welcoming and communicative and collaborative. I love the vibe here. Everyone's just on a different level.
Okay, I get this question a lot, so let's get into it. So in 2016, I graduated our equivalent to high school in Sweden. And yes, this is how we celebrate graduation in Sweden, but that's a story for a whole nother video. Anyway, I didn't know what I wanted to do after graduation. I knew I didn't want to continue studying right away. I wanted to travel the world, see new things. So I worked at a restaurant for the whole summer, saving a shitload of money for whatever I was going to decide to do. And during that summer, one of my parents' friends came to visit us, and he lived in Kenya for a long time and did a bit of horse riding there. So he spoke to me about it, and I've always been a horse riding girl, so I thought it sounded really cool. So we were talking about maybe finding a place for me in Kenya to do horse riding safaris or something similar. And that ended up falling through and didn't happen. But at that point, I was so set on Africa and like the horse thing. So I ended up Googling Africa, horses, volunteering, and I booked the first thing that came up. And a month after that, I ended up in South Africa, and I was about to have the biggest adventure of my life. It was nothing like what I expected. We went on crazy adventures, obviously did a lot of horse riding, and met incredible new friends. After those first 2 months in South Africa, I was hooked. I came back to Sweden to the biggest snowstorm in 200 years. For real. And I was miserable. I just couldn't stop thinking about South Africa, and I just knew that I needed to get back there.
So for a year, I took a bunch of different jobs and just worked as much as I could and saved a lot of money to be able to go back to South Africa again. So in 2018, I went back and I did my guide training to be a qualified guide. I just wanted to learn more about the bush and be in South Africa, and this also gave me an opportunity to be in the country for a little bit longer and figure out if this is where I wanted to be. And during that time, that's when I met my boyfriend, Craig. So we were doing long distance while I was doing my guiding course and traveling around South Africa on crazy adventures. That also could be another video. And one day he phoned me and said that his bosses had offered me to come and work at the lodge he was working at. So I said yes, and that's how I ended up at my very first lodge job. At this point, I didn't have a visa, so I wasn't legally allowed to work. So I was working for free, volunteering at the lodge, and then I went back to Sweden during the summers and worked at the restaurant to be able to then go back to South Africa and work for free. Okay, this story is way too long. I'm going to have to make a part 2.
So let's start with one of the most unexpected stories ever. A girl from Sweden says she ended up in South Africa by accident, like literally. She finished high school in 2016, didn't want to study yet, so she worked a summer job to save money. And then she thought, let me go volunteer somewhere with horses in Africa. On a whim, she just Googled Africa horses volunteering, clicked the first thing that came up, and boom, a plane ticket to South Africa. Imagine making a life-changing decision because of horses and Google search results. That's iconic. She arrives in South Africa for 2 months, and everything changes. She fell in love with the nature, the wildlife, the adventure. Probably not the mosquitoes, but you get my point. She went back to Sweden, and suddenly winter hit her with the biggest snowstorm in 200 years. She said she was miserable, like literally sad, every day thinking about lions, sunsets, and wide-open landscapes instead of frozen eyelashes. So she saved up again and returned in 2018 for a wildlife guiding course called FGASA Level 1. During that time, she traveled around South Africa and discovered places she didn't even know existed. And then, plot twist, she met her fiancé. His name is Craig. And that's how the love story and visa problem got sorted out at the same time. Romance and immigration paperwork, what a combo. She started working with him in the bush, doing photography, guiding guests, and showing animals in the wild. Eventually, they quit their jobs and started their own safari company. Now they help others experience their dream adventures, while she teaches wildlife photography online and in person. Imagine booking a trip and your guide says, "Yeah, I moved here because of a random Google search." That's the good life. And then there's another story. Someone who was actually born in South Africa, but lived in the UK for years. And people kept asking him, "Why would you leave the UK? Isn't it better there?" And he said something that hit hard. Money isn't everything. You can earn more cash in the UK, but most of it disappears into bills anyway. And the biggest reason he came back? Family. He spent over a decade away from his own dad. No amount of pounds can buy back lost time. So he made the decision to come home, build his life in South Africa, and show people that dreams are possible anywhere, that even in a country that outsiders often underestimate. Now, this next one is a whole different angle. Someone looked at the future and said, "I don't want to be with the have-nots. I want to be with the haves." And since South Africa is part of BRICS, backed by gold, creating new financial systems, they believe the country is going to rise big time. They even compared it to other places like Brazil and Costa Rica, but felt like they just wouldn't fit in. They joked that they can vibe with Carlos Santana for a bit, but mariachi music every day? Nah. South Africa it is, and the funniest part? Bathtubs. Yes, bathtubs. They love long, relaxing baths with lavender. And they said many African countries don't have bathtubs in a lot of homes. That was a deal breaker. They said they are not a shower person like that. So if you ever wonder why someone relocates halfway across the world, sometimes it's really as simple as wanting a bathtub and reliable Wi-Fi. But when they arrived in Cape Town and drove past a township for the first time, that was a huge shock. They said that was the only time they were scared because they had never seen anything like that in their life. But after observing and learning more, they decided this is a challenge they want to help fix. They literally said they want to end townships. That's a bold mission, but they believe it's possible, especially when collaborating with people who care and are already working on solutions. Then we have the British girl who fell in love with South African culture, one word at a time. She discovered the Afrikaans word loskop, which basically means scatterbrained, and she loves it so much she proudly calls herself that. She said the word just hits perfectly, like it was invented specifically for her personality. Try saying scatterbrained. Boring. Now say loskop. So cute but also slightly insulting. Perfect balance. She also said she feels like making friends in South Africa is way easier than what she was warned about. People are warm, friendly, welcoming, and just a whole different vibe. She met South Africans from Cape Town, Joburg, Durban, Zimbabwe, Malawi, all kinds of backgrounds, and she's had nothing but good experiences. She knows South Africa has problems, but she sees both sides and she loves the energy of the people. And then there's the travel lover who keeps returning to Cape Town more than any place on earth. They said the weather is amazing, the beaches are incredible, the food is delicious, and the sunsets will make you emotional. You can see whales, dolphins, sharks, and then go out to a party later. Cape Town is nature documentary by day, Netflix nightlife by night. What a mix. So after hearing all these stories, I realized something. Europeans aren't moving to South Africa because it's perfect. They're moving because it's alive. There's adventure, culture, warmth, nature, creativity, and opportunities to build something meaningful. They're choosing joy over routine, community over isolation, sunsets over snowstorms. And that's powerful. Of course, South Africa has challenges, real ones. But these people aren't ignoring them. They're choosing to be part of the solution while enjoying the beauty that already exists. They're saying, yes, this country has flaws, and yes, I still want to be here. So the next time someone asks, why would anyone move to South Africa? The answer might be, because sometimes the life you're meant for isn't where you were born. Sometimes your dream finds you, even if it starts with a random horse safari search on Google. Thanks for watching. If you want more stories like this, stick around, because I'm not done exploring why people are falling head over heels for South Africa. And who knows, one day, you might be the next one booking a flight to the bush.